is where I kind of wish the Eagles had a coach where, and this is nothing against Nick Sirianni, but someone who could overrule Howie Roseman a bit here, someone with a lot of veteran experience and say, hey, look, Howie, we got to play this guy. We got to get this guy ready for week 1. I don't want him starting 1 for 10 and have everybody on his case because he started out slow. No, the reason he would start out slow is because you didn't play him in the live game reps you should have been doing.
Jeff Curry's in for John McMullen today on Birds 365. Mr. Curry, you look ready to go.
Yeah, I guess I am. It might be all that sleep I had after the Saints-Jags preseason game last night. Urban Meyer gave me that Steve Spurrier vibe.
Okay, well, the Jags got beat, and I'll give you a stat on what's transpired in the first 2 weeks of the NFL preseason, which almost defies explanation. Maybe you can do it for me. You're a smart football mind, but we'll hold off on that a little bit. While we speak, we assume the Eagles are on the New Jersey Turnpike, or maybe I'm wrong. Do you know if the Eagles already headed to New Jersey? Are they crashing at a hotel tonight? It is a road couple of days. I know I could tell you if there's no traffic, get up and down the Jersey Turnpike between Philly and Florham Park in about an hour and 45 minutes, but there's never not traffic on the New Jersey Turnpike, so you got to factor that in. Do you know if the Eagles are staying up there or if they're going up and back the next 3 days for 2 joint practices with the Jets and then an exhibition game on Friday?
So from my knowledge, they left last night. So I'm assuming they're staying for a couple days, and then I guess they come back on Friday. So they're going to treat it like a road trip.
Well, then hopefully they get what they need out of this road trip. Jeff, you know, last week they had the joint practices with the Patriots. They came to town and hung with the Eagles and got handled each of the 2 joint practice days. But then in the exhibition game on Thursday, they lit the Eagles on fire at 35-0. Nick Sirianni and most of the players said that they got what they needed out of the joint practices in the week, which I'll take them at their word that they got the better of the play. But isn't part of the joint practices to build up to the game on Thursday? That's at least the way the Patriots made it work for them. And I know it can't work for both teams that way, but 35-0. I'm sorry. Doesn't that like wipe away any of the good work you got done in joint practices leading up to a beatdown?
You would think, like, because the Patriots had the last laugh, and they were the team that ultimately it seemed like they prepared to play for, I guess if you want to call Thursday's game a practice, I mean, because it kind of is. It's an exhibition game, but it seems like the Patriots were prepared. They treated it like a game on Thursday, and the Eagles were like, okay, well, we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish in the joint practices. I would like to see the Eagles kind of, maybe this is a coaching lesson for Nick Sirianni. Maybe this isn't even Nick Sirianni. It's a little higher up, as McMullen has pointed out a couple times. But I would like to see them, if they do well in the joint practices this week, continue that on Friday.
That's what I would like to see as a guy who's trying to analyze how the Eagles are looking and getting ready for an upcoming season. And, oh, by the way, their head coach is non-committal as to whether Jalen Hurts is going to start and or even play on Friday. We know what happened this past game, and that, I think, in part explains the Eagles' offensive shortcomings. All apologies to Joe Flacco and Nick Mullins, who we talked at length about Nick Mullins here yesterday. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback. I think the Eagles would be mistaken to even keep him. Yeah, they didn't have their number 2, 1, or they had to play with both their second and third string quarterbacks. Jalen, of course, gets the stomach ache before the game, goes off to the hospital, is checked out, is immediately released. So it wasn't something major, but it did keep him out of the game. He's taken all of 10 snaps in the first 2 preseason games. If he's going to sit game number 3 out of an over caution that you don't want to get him hurt, how can you think that a guy who's only started 4 games in the National Football League is going to be ready to start a season off 10 snaps in preseason action?
And that's the thing, Jody. This is so unorthodox. This isn't like Matthew Stafford or I'm just going off veteran quarterbacks here. Even Jared Goff. Jared Goff has played this preseason. He didn't last week because of the joint practices, but I think the Eagles feel like they have a veteran quarterback here, and they don't. They have a second-year quarterback who's only played 4 starts, and I'll bet he's been impressive in a lot of them, but still, he doesn't have that experience. This is where I kind of wish the Eagles had a coach where, and this is nothing against Nick Sirianni, but someone who could overrule Howie Roseman a bit here, someone with a lot of veteran experience and say, hey, look, Howie, we got to play this guy. We got to get this guy ready for week 1. I don't want him starting 1 for 10 and have everybody on his case because he started out slow. No, the reason he would start out slow is because you didn't play him in the live game reps you should have been doing. These practices, they're not tackling. That's what people don't understand. The live tackling is happening in a preseason game. They're not really happening in these practices. A couple times they'll do like quote unquote live hitting, but it's not the same. And that's what worries me about that. I think Jalen Hurts ultimately is going to be fine. And for the year, I think he'll be more than fine. But I want to see him do well right off the bat, especially against a team you could beat like the Atlanta Falcons. And I get the health issue. I do. But Jalen Hurts, he's built like a fullback. I mean, if he gets hurt, it's going to be a weird injury. It's not going to be because he got hit or anything like that. So that's where I wish, Nick Sirianni had a little more power. We could overrule and say, because I think deep down, Nick Sirianni would rather play Jalen Hurts a quarter or so this last preseason game.
And we won't know how much he will play till Friday. Well, I shouldn't say that. Maybe Nick Sirianni will announce and or be truthful about how much he's going to play here with Jalen Hurts between now and Friday. My guess is, be tuned on Friday because here on Birds 365, we still might not know day of game as to how much Jalen Hurts is going to play. And there's a really simple reason why I think this is, in my opinion, a mistake. I think the Eagles are going to pass the ball a lot this year. A couple reasons for it. Number one, they could be trailing in games. The Eagles right now don't look like a team that is going to finish above 500. They were 4-11 last year, and they've upgraded the roster some. Coaching change might make a difference. We'll have to find that out. But nobody who's trying to be objective is looking at this as a double-digit win team. So if that's the case, you could be behind in games. And when you are behind in games, it lends itself to passing, specifically in the second half. So I think because of that reason, just one of several I'm going to give you, they're going to throw the ball a lot. Number two, Nick Sirianni is a former wide receiver. And sorry, Miles Sanders fans, if you think this is going to turn into a ground and pound football team, just not happening. They don't have that kind of back. I don't think they're going to be a team that's going to come out with a 50-50 or actually run the football more than they pass the football. No, they're going to be typical NFL team, 60+% of the time they're going to throw the football. And they've got a relatively new core of wide receivers. Yeah, Devontae Smith is going to be a major player in this offense. I know he's got a former relationship with Jalen Hurts when they played together down in Alabama. But the quarterback has only had so many chances with so many reps to throw to the receivers that he has. Timing is everything. And I don't know that he's built timing up with any of these guys. Game timing. Practice timing, all right, man, maybe he's done some of that. But even at that, Eagles practice timing is what, about 70 minutes, 75 max? So they're only getting so many pass plays in there. That's what scares me about coming into the season, Jeff. Is the timing going to be there between Hurts and his wide receivers? That's
what scares me too, Jody. And that's why I think you have the live game reps. I saw it Friday night with the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes played. He played I think it was 33 snaps. He ended up playing almost the entire first half. And there was some rust in there. He was trying to stay in the pocket, and which is one thing he specifically said he wanted to do this offseason. But there were times he had to flush himself out, and he made throws he probably wouldn't make a regular season game. Sometimes he would, but he made some bad deliveries. And the one I look at was his timing with Mecole Hardman. Now, they've been together. This is going to be their third year, but their timing was off on a couple throws and a couple routes there. And they both admit after the game, look, that's why we play these games, because we want to make sure this is right come week one. And they don't play any slouch either. They play the Cleveland Browns. So they want to make sure they're ready, especially if Hardman's going to be their number two. Jalen Hurts, I think his chemistry with Devonta Smith is going to be fine. And from practices, his chemistry with Rhaegar is going to be fine. But you're not getting that game rep. Like, you can tell Jalen Rhaegar struggled Thursday night. He's not used to catching passes from Joe Flacco, and he's not going to catch them in the regular season. So I get Thursday night was unfortunate with the stomach bug for Hurts. But overall, this is why I think he needs to play that third preseason game. play the three receivers you played Thursday night. That's one thing I like the Eagles did. Play Watkins, play Rhaegar, play Smith, and have your quarterback just throw a couple passes to them just to get their timing. And again, I beg Eagles fans to do this. I beg Eagles media not to do this. Not to do this. Don't judge based off the preseason game. If Hurts' timing is off with Rhaegar on Thursday, on Friday night, if he plays, then it is. It's a preseason game. I want to see that grow week one. That's what the preseason is for.
Understood. But then if it isn't ready to go by week number one, we can look back. 2020 hindsight is a beautiful thing and go, if he got more work, maybe they'd be more in sync come week one against the Atlanta Falcons, which we're down to just, 19 days between now and the start of the regular season. So it's sneaking up on us real fast. All right, let me get your take on this, Jeff. These rumors won't go away, and I don't know how substantiated they are, but media outlets are dropping it as a possibility. In both Philadelphia, where it's most prevalent, but also in the other towns where there might be the possibility of a trade, Eagles potentially doing a deal to get a veteran wide receiver. We've known this since training camp opened up, the relative obscurity of the Eagles wide receiver group. They don't have a veteran guy here. Greg Ward, who is, of course, a converted quarterback to a wide receiver, has more NFL experience, more NFL catches than any other wide receiver on the Eagles roster. So they are a really young group. Would they be aided by the addition of a veteran receiver? Probably. How good do you need that receiver to be? That's a really good question. If you're going to make a deal, if you're going to do a trade, and I don't think it would include draft picks, I think it would have to be a player-for-player trade, you'd want a guy who's had some resume built up over the course of his career. Do you think Howie Roseman is pursuing this? Do you think this is just media types like, I don't know, Jody McDonald and Jeff Kerr trying to put two and two together and come up with four? Do you think there is a realistic possibility the Eagles will trade for a veteran wide receiver before the year starts?
Well, I know there are some receivers on the block, and the Eagles have had the most trades in the NFL since Howie Roseman has become the general manager or that title in 2010. So naturally, you're going to link the Eagles to whatever player is available. Here's the thing. I know Andy Isabella is available on the Cardinals. I don't know if a guy like that helps them. Like, he was a second-round pick. He was taken after J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Had a really good rookie year at least by my standards. He averaged like 21 yards per catch. He was a deep ball threat. Didn't catch a lot of passes, but he was like the third, fourth option. And then he kind of faded out last year. Like, he was pretty much non-existent. So if the Eagles wanted to give him like a second chance at a career, you trade for him. And you trade pretty much, I don't know what he would be worth. Maybe if you do a player-for-player swap, whatever the Cardinals need, like an extra safety or something like that, fine. I don't think he would take playing time away from a Jalen Rhaegar or a Quez Watkins, but I think it's more of depth. Like, Travis Fulgham's not a good camp. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside I've given up on already, even before camp started. So I think that would be a depth move. If you trade for a guy like, I know Mike Kay mentioned Keelan Cole. I know from people I've talked to, it looks like Keelan Cole is on the block. What do you trade for a Keelan Cole who is proven in this league? Does Keelan Cole start for your football team? Yeah, that's what you got to wonder here. I think the expectations are a little too high on Quez Watkins. I think that's a little bit of fan excitement, even though Quez Watkins is going to help this offense this year. I don't think the Eagles feel he's ready to be a starter. So maybe that's where Keelan Cole comes in. He plays the other outside slot outside Devonta Smith, Jalen Rhaegar. He would play the slot. Those are the two names that have been tossed around. It looks like. I'm sure there will be others available. Isabella just got off the reserve COVID list, so it looks like he'll play that Thursday night game. I'm trying to think of other guys that would be available off the top of my head. I thought maybe, again, I said before, I thought Anthony Miller would have been available, but he got hurt. Maybe some guys on the Texans, but again, I don't know what they're doing down there. They're trying to compete. They're trying to not. But I think it depends, too, on who gets cut. I think that's what the Eagles are hoping for, like a big like a high-profile name gets cut or like one of those veterans that can actually help a team out.
Right, and that's always a good thought process because Doesn't cost you anything. All you've got to be able to do is convince the guy to come play with you. If he gets cut and he's a free agent, he can sign with anyone he wants. If he is that talented a player, well, then there are going to be multiple teams' interest. So you're not going to get him on the cheap. You're going to have to get creative with the ability to do the cap, which is one of the things that we always give Howie Roseman credit for and say he's very good at managing the cap. So, yeah, if I were a betting man, I'd say that would be more likely than a trade, but I haven't completely dismissed the trade possibility. As we've already mentioned a couple times, they're in Florham Park, New Jersey this week for 2 joint practices with the Jets and then the exhibition game, which I will be in attendance for on Friday between the Eagles and the Jets. Let me give you another name. Yeah, the Jets actually have an extra wide receiver or 2 that they could probably deal with. You mentioned Keenan Cole. They also have Jamison Crowder, who prior to the opening of camp, everybody and their brother thought that he was going to be either traded and or cut, that the Jets would move on, that they could use his salary cap relief if they cut him. He was the Jets' best wide receiver last year, as per the numbers, most catches, most yards, most touchdowns. He and Sam Darnold had a very good rapport. Well, Sam Darnold's not there anymore. And Zach Wilson, in his couple of weeks since he became the Jets starting quarterback, and has looked okay, by the way. And I guarantee you he's going to play some. I don't know how much, but he's going to play some in this final exhibition game, because here's a novel idea. A quarterback with not a lot of experience in the NFL actually can use preseason reps. But I digress. James Crowder's a damn good player. He is a slot receiver. That's what he is. He's a little guy and has been outstanding in the slot with the Washington football team. They were the Redskins then, and the Jets during his career. Do you think the Eagles would be willing to part with a decent player to get a guy who does have a very real NFL track record and resume? He made a bunch of catches for a bad offensive football team last year for the Jets. Do you think Jamison Crowder's name will come up this week in conversation between Eagles and Jets?
I would love a player like Jamison Crowder on this team, but here's the thing. I think Jalen Rhaegar could be an absolute beast in the slot just because he could take the top off a defense, and you could use that skill set, that deep ball tracking to your advantage if you want explosive plays down the field. That's where I think getting a veteran like Jamison Crowder, it would definitely help this team this year. But overall, if you want to put Jalen Rhaegar in the slot, then who goes on the outside? That's why we're like, because I don't know if Jamison Crowder can actually do that on a consistent basis. Because you're right, Jody, he's a good football player. He can benefit a lot of teams. Like I'll tell you what, there's a team in New Orleans that could use Jamison Crowder right about now, and especially with the whole Jameis Winston thing, it looks like he's going to be a starting quarterback. I think there are better teams that could use a good football player like Jamison Crowder. He would definitely help the Eagles out. He would definitely help Jalen Hurts out. But if you want to develop these young receivers, and look, I think the Eagles need a veteran. There's no doubt about that. But I also I'm intrigued by Jalen Rhaegar in the slot. I think Jalen Rhaegar in the slot can be a very dangerous weapon for them, especially going downfield, because you're going to have Devonta Smith on the outside. So you put Rhaegar in the slot primarily. That gives him an opportunity to beat slot cornerbacks up and down the field. It gives them an opportunity for more big plays. It also gives Rhaegar an opportunity to get some receptions and some quick catches under his belt, which I think he needs. I think he needs those reps. I think that's where Jalen Rhaegar fits this football team the best. If you trade for a receiver, I kind of want, I'm not saying a big body on the outside, but a guy who can play the Z a little bit more experienced than Jalen Rhaegar, or a guy who can kind of, how can I put it in words? It's more of a guy that, can help this, can make the contested catches. That's what I want to see. And I know the Eagles had a guy like that for a couple of years and it didn't pan out, but I don't think Jamison Crowder's that guy. He would definitely help this football team out, but I think that also plays a role in taking away snaps from a guy who probably could use him in the slot like Jalen Rhaegar.
Here's where I have reservations, and I'm not saying they shouldn't do it or they can't do it. I think they're probably going to end up absolutely doing it in part, but I'm not guaranteeing upstanding results. Here's my issue with Rhaegar in the slot. For me, and it varies from team to team with the system that they run and the type of plays that they use. To be a really good slot receiver, the number one thing you have to have, maybe even above and beyond your ability, just pulling the football and catch the football, and they're usually shorter, quicker throws, so reaction is very important. But the ability to get separation. When I separation, not this kind of separation, but this kind of separation. And it's got to be, as I say, short, quick, accurate throw. The ability for you to run routes, to plant, to move, to change direction is paramount. You got to be able to do that real well. That's not a strength with Jalen Rhaegar. That's not something he does well. So if you're going to move him into the slot, are you actually playing to his strengths, or are you playing to his weaknesses?
I think it's a combination. And like you said, Joe, you point out the biggest weakness with Jalen Rhaegar. Route running and the contested. That's where I would be intrigued by Jamison Crowder. So I agree with you there 100%. Where I'm looking at it as, okay, where can we use this guy's speed and get big plays down the field? And if you put him in the slot, it's a lot different than putting him on the outside. You're not going to line up. I'm just going to use a hypothetical. They're not playing the Rams this year, but you're not going to put Jalen Ramsey in the slot to cover Jalen Rhaegar. You're not. Jalen Rhaegar, really the only time he would have a quote-unquote mismatch would be like when a Kenny Moore goes in the slot or someone like that when they play the Colts, but they don't play the Colts this year. But overall, this is where I thought the Eagles got in trouble last year. Nickel Roby Coleman was mostly their slot guy, and the Rams, like, they picked him off. They torched him. And that's where I kind of like the idea of Avonte Max in the slot. But those are the type of cornerbacks you're going to see in there. Like, teams usually carry 2 or 3 good cornerbacks, but their slot cornerback now is getting more reps because the slot receiver is getting more opportunity. So that's where I kind of like the Jalen Rhaegar intrigue there, where he can catch a ball down the field and use his speed. But this is where I agree with you with Crowder. If Jalen Hurts misfires, I think Crowder catches one back shoulder, something like that. And yeah, it's only for a 4-yard gain, but it moves the chains. That's where I would like a Crowder type player in this. So yeah, Joe, if you're going for a veteran type receiver, especially one that can catch the ball, can help this team, then Crowder's your guy. I'm just afraid that they're going to take reps away from somebody else in the slot because the Eagles have guys that can do that.
All right, for those of you tuned in at the top of the show, McDonald's is nice. Kurt's good. He knows his stuff. Where's McMullen? Well, unfortunately, still waiting on Johnny Mac. He may or may not be able to join us today. He's already up the Jersey Turnpike and is waiting for the ability to get in and be able to check out practice. They're not supposed to start for a while, but John wanted to get up there early because he didn't know the procedures. You're walking into somebody else's house, which he hasn't done yet this year. So you leave that much more time to get there and get through procedures. He did text and say that the Jets are doing testing, so that might slow the process down. So we're going to try and get to Johnny Mac. We're going to guarantee you that we're going to get to Mike Sealski. Sealski, don't bag us now. You're going to make me look bad. I just guaranteed you're going to be on. Okay, Mike? Just in case Sealski's watching. Did talk, exchange text with Mike, and he said he would come on, and we'll talk to him next hour. But before we get to the first break, I want to run this by you, Jeff Kerr, football savant that you are. 33 preseason games have been played to this point. The Hall of Fame game and full skeds week 1 and week 2. 33 games. Would you believe me if I told you that out of those 33 games, 31 of them have been interconference games, meaning AFC against NFC. There have only been 2 games played that were within their own conference, that an AFC team played an AFC team or an NFC team played an NFC team. Would you believe that that's the spread on the first 33 games this preseason? I'm
honestly not surprised. It's almost like baseball in a sense. Do you really play teams in your division in spring training? No. And I just think teams schedule teams they don't play this year, which is weird that the Eagles scheduled the Jets because they do play the Jets this year. Now, granted, this is that added 17th game, but still, yeah, these like the Browns and the Giants, they're not playing each other this year. They played each other last year. Eagles and Patriots, they're not playing each other this year. And I think that's how these teams formulate these preseason schedules. They look at, okay, who aren't we playing? Who can't really take anything away from these games that we play in the regular season? And I think that's just how they roll. And I think the best way to do that is the interconference games, the AFC versus NFC. And that's where they can have the joint practices like the Bucs. They're not playing the Titans this year. And I just think that's what they do now. And I think we're going to see more of that with, 3 preseason games. Jody, who were the 2 NFC teams that, or were they 2 AFC teams that played each other?
Well, there was one matchup between all NFC teams and one all AFC. The two NFCs that played was, I think it was week one, actually week two for them, because the Cowboys played the
The Cardinals. Yeah, that's right.
They played the Cardinals week one, and I believe the Jaguars. I got to see who the Jaguars played.
Week Cleveland.
Cleveland, Jaguars and Browns were the only. Every other game other than that has been cross conference.
Yeah,
hold on. Now, I got to ask you the question. Would you like to take a guess at what the breakdown is, AFC winners versus NFC winners?
I would have to
31 games. We got 33 played. 2 were intra within the conference. 31 were out of the conference. What do you think the WL breakdown is between the two conferences?
I would have to say the AFC's won more games.
You would be correct. Now, would you like to break down the 31 into numbers for me? I
was going to say 20 and 11.
You would not be close. Take another guess. And you know which direction you should go, by the way, I'm telling you.
Up? Even more? Okay. So I was giving the NFC the benefit of the doubt. So I'll go 26-5. How's that?
What if I told you you need to go higher?
Oh, jeez. Is the NFC I know the AFC is better than the NFC this year. Is it really that much?
Are you ready for this?
Yeah, go ahead.
The AFC has won 27 of 31 games between the teams so far in preseason. And oh, by the way, it was 27-2 before the last 2 games that were played because the 49ers won on Sunday night. And the Saints won last. It was 27-2. It ended up 27-4 over the first 2+ weeks of the season. All right, old football savant. What do we read into this?
I don't want to say it's preseason, but I'll tell you what I would have told you 3 months ago. The AFC is just light years better than the NFC, and it's not close. This is why I kind of write off teams like the New England Patriots. Like if the Patriots are in the NFC, yeah, put them in the playoffs. But, Matt Verderam said yesterday, outside the NFC West, the NFC North is a joke. I'm sorry. The Vikings, they're not good. They think they can be good because they're in that division. The Bears, they were a playoff team last year, but they did not look like a playoff team at all. And they should play Justin Fields week 1. The Lions stink. The NFC South's a bad division. It's Tampa Bay and everybody else at this point. And, the Saints can make the playoffs just because Atlanta's not good and Carolina's not good. We know what the NFC East is. So that's why the NFC West gets so much hype. There's 4 legitimate teams in there. Really, that's the only chance the NFC has. An NFC team won the Super Bowl last year, but the 5 seed from the NFC went to the Super Bowl. Green Bay's good, and they're going to be good this year. But if you look at the depth of the AFC compared to the depth of the NFC, light years away. So don't think like when the Eagles play the Chargers or the Raiders that it's going to be a cakewalk, because it's not.
Correct me if I'm wrong. We're still using the same playoff format this year that they used last year, correct?
Correct.
Would it be, and I guarantee, well, it's of course, because last year was the first time they ever did it, but would you not be surprised if I told you that not 1, not 2, all 3 wild cards come out of the NFC West this year? That there's going to be a divisional winner, and you got 3 wild cards in each conference, that all 3 of them can come. Now, I know it's going to be very difficult because they got to play each other. I don't even know if I would bet this, but I just evaluating the overall talent, taking divisional alignment out of it. I think 4 of the best 6 teams in the NFC are all in the NFC West.
It almost happened last year, Jody. It almost did. If the Rams and the Cardinals didn't have to play each other that last week, it might have happened. So that's how you got to look at it. And, Seattle made it last year. San Fran was bad. San Fran got hurt. So you could have had 3 in that. You could have had 3. But San Fran's healthy this year. It's very possible. And I'm just looking at it just based on the other divisions. The Saints can steal a spot, but here's the thing. I think all teams got to win 9 games in the NFC West to make it. That's very possible. But the Saints can play spoiler because they're going to play the Panthers twice. They're going to play the Falcons twice. If they can beat them, Saints will probably end up getting a spot. And they were a division champion last year. The Vikings can play spoiler because they do play the Lions twice. The Bears may be able to beat them once, but the NFC East, forget it. So it's possible. If there was, I wish there was like a Vegas line from Caesars Sportsbook or something. Every team from the NFC West makes the playoffs. I bet it would be a very intriguing bet just to make, just on the whole entire NFC.
I do believe it's got a possibility of happening. Don't know if there's some analytics and math that would line up against it because they all have to play each other 2 times, so it'd make it difficult. But it's not impossible that all 3 of the wild cards come out of the same exact division. All right, Jeff Kerr, Jody McDonald, here with you on Birds 365. I look down, I don't see John McMullen's smiling face. We're still hoping to get John on the show. We don't know if we can because he's got some issues traveling up north. And when I say north, I don't mean north of the border like Canada or anything. No, I'm just talking north on the New Jersey Turnpike to Florham Park, where the Jets have their team facility. We know the Jets and Eagles will be practicing together, a joint practice later on this morning. We're hoping to get Johnny Mack up, who is heading up there now. Don't know if we will, but we will continue the effort for you. If not, Jeff Kerr and I will return with more Eagles talk right here on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.